Yep, Jojo knows what she's talking about. Is it too little too late from Nissan? Well, I have to say that there's nothing wrong with bringing us the X-Trail to the Indian market. It's a good car to have, but it was first launched in 2021, this fourth generation. And then we're not even getting the four-wheel drive, we're not getting the e-Power hybrid, we're not even getting a more powerful engine. So, what does it have? Let's get into it. Surprisingly good aerodynamics despite that big squarish shape. Now that's thanks to air curtains, grille shutters in the bumper, tire deflectors and a clever design. The car is being offered in just 3 colors: white, champagne and this black. So really just 3 colors and 3 really boring colors? Well, go figure. Now styling wise, you get typical Nissan treatment when it comes to all of its SUVs. That big V grille becomes even bigger on the SUVs. So you've got that, but you know what, to me it takes away from the car a little bit because all your attention goes to this thick chrome and this treatment, and the car doesn't look pretty as a result. I think in this segment it's important to look a little bit sexy and pretty as well. But then I guess when you're competing with the Fortuner, looks don't really matter. Now, you've got the modern elements of the LED lighting, especially the DRL up front. This part's finished quite nicely. The split looks quite nice too. Frankly, so is the chrome finished quite nicely, as is the grille. Now the Nissan logo, it's the new logo, nice and big, but for some reason it's still housed in what looks like the old logo. Should have been a nice slim treatment because that was the whole idea of changing the logo. As you come around to the side, you start to pick up the bulk and proportion of the car. You've got a little bit of muscle in the hood, which looks nice. The wheel arches, pretty pronounced, and then the roof line, nice and tall. But the 20-inch wheels, again, we could have had bigger wheels, but India spec gets this particular set. The alloy pattern, not much to write home about. You do pick up the bulk of the car as you come around to the side. It is nice and well proportioned, it looks large, and then it starts to look the part of that full-size SUV, especially when you come around here to the back, because this section kind of gives you this impression. Lots of boot space or that third row of seating. The LED taillight treatment is quite nice because it sits nice and high. It kind of adds to the muscle and the heft of the car, and it's got that raindrop effect that Nissan likes to talk about. Boomerang shape wraps around the corner. Now, what about the inside? Comfort and tech? Satvik's going to tell you.
A nice little touch here is the fact that the doors open up to 85 degrees, allowing you to enter very easily. But that's not the case when you have to enter the third row. You have to pull this strap here that drops down the seat, pull the seat forward, and now it's a climb. And I'm finally in. Let me start with the third row itself. And you know, it's not really comfortable in here. My legs are cramped. You could say it's best left for children. Even the small little rear quarter window doesn't help with the airy feeling inside in the third row. It's nice that it has cup holders at the back and a small cubby hole on either side, but a lack of charging port is a big miss. But you know, that leg space can be increased. Let me show you. Like I mentioned, you can increase the space at the back. All you have to do is just push this forward. And I have a lot of space now.
The second row has a 40-20-40 split, and that gives you a lot of variety when it comes to seating configurations. 16 different permutations and combinations, in fact. Alright, we've spent enough time at the back. Now let's get to the seat in the front. Tech is a big deal in cars these days, and it's a shame to see Nissan giving us an 8-inch infotainment touchscreen when there is a 12.3-inch unit available on this model in other markets. Even more perplexing, that system has wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay connectivity, but on this one, it's wired.
A good part here is that you can connect your phone for Apple CarPlay or Android Auto using both these USB ports. You're not limited to using just either of the two. But the display's resolution isn't the best out there, and there is a bit of a lag when you're using it. You also get a 360-degree camera, and the resolution is not the best out there either.
And then there's the virtual cluster, which thankfully is the same 12.3-inch unit that you see in other markets, but there's very little in terms of customization options here. You can only choose between two themes. The X-Trail does have a wireless charger, that panoramic sunroof, a floating center console, interesting storage options, and dual zone climate control. On safety, the X-Trail does well. It gets 7 airbags, ISOFIX child seat anchors, stability control, and ABS or anti-lock braking with brake force distribution, hill start assist, front parking sensors, and a 360-degree camera. This SUV has a 1.5-litre 3-cylinder turbo petrol engine with 161 bhp and 300 Nm. And it gets Nissan's new variable compression turbocharger technology and also has the mild hybrid assist and a start-stop function. I saw a lot of talk on social media about why Nissan has chosen to bring us the smaller engine, a 3-cylinder engine. And let me tell you first off, this is actually something that I don't find a problem with. Now, I will qualify that statement in just a second by saying Nissan could have done better, but there's nothing wrong with this engine. It's actually really smooth. It actually sounds really nice too, like a lot of Nissan engines have in the past. And so I don't really have a complaint with the engine per se, or whether or not it fits this body style or this size of vehicle. My problem is that Nissan isn't seemingly trying to impress us. Where is the e-Power, the range extender hybrid? It's something like that. Bringing that in would have been a bit of a game changer. It's the thing that would have gotten people to sit up and take notice. And then there's the criticism about this being a CVT and not like a dual clutch transmission. Honestly, while Nissan says in its pitch that the overall reworking of this X-Tronic is to try and give it almost like a DCT feel. I'm not going to go that far with my praise, but there is no rubber band effect. It actually does feel nice, and it's responsive, especially when you try and use the paddle shifters as well. And lastly, you put the gearbox into S, and then you also change your drive mode to Sport. Yeah, it's no sports car, but it's still nice, it's quick, it's surprising how fast the car actually gets to move to triple digits despite this so-called small engine. So my colleague Satvik also drove the car, and he was talking about how the seat doesn't seem as comfortable as it should. Maybe it's not great on under-thigh support. I don't want to nitpick. I'm not finding it uncomfortable. It's nice enough in terms of the commanding driving position, but it's not a power adjustable seat. In this segment, that is going to raise eyebrows. The big redeeming factor though, ride quality. The car just glides over the little undulations and bumps. It's got a very nice suspension tuning, something that almost makes up for things that it doesn't have. So who's really going to buy this car? Well, in terms of chief rivals, the Toyota Fortuner tops the list. You've also got cars like the Skoda Kodiaq. The new generation is on its way as well. So we're talking about a price point that goes everywhere from 35 to even 45 lakh rupees. Now, if you go by the buzz that's kind of percolating into the market, well, you got this impression that this car is going to be in that 40 lakh range. But I think Nissan's got to play it a lot smarter. Going by the equipment level of this car, it cannot be at that price point. It just simply cannot, because nobody will buy it. So, if you actually think about it, the smart thing to do would be to say, hey, we got limited numbers that we're expecting anyway. It is a completely built unit, an import, and so why not subsidize some of that cost as marketing cost and price it closer to 30 lakh rupees, 30 or 35. That's the sweet spot, and that is what will set the market on fire. So, will it strike the fancy of the Indian buyer, especially if you end up spending the higher amount that I mentioned? Well, why don't you tell us what you think? Because for Nissan, as I've been saying, it is too little too late, unless there is a nice little surprise when it comes to price and positioning.